All right. All right. I'm going to kick it off. Hello, everyone who ends up listening. Thanks for joining us today. I'm here with Zane and Cam as part of EP3. Today we have our guest, Toby from Community Fusions. Well, as his tagline says, he's literally obsessed with community building. So who else to have here to talk about the future and how it belongs to communities? And so we're the hosts of Actual Intelligence, a space where we're going to explore the intersection of AI and crypto, not just from the hype side, but we want to learn from the perspective of people actually building in it. And so today's topic is the future and how it belongs to communities and AI's role in community building. So there's been an explosion of new projects combining the two worlds of crypto and AI, some real, some noise. And our goal for the next hour or so is to separate the two and figure out what actually makes a strong narrative in this space. Today, we'll be exploring that from the angle of communities. And so we spent a lot of time here talking about this on the EXP3 side. We believe good narratives aren't just about hype, they're about relatability and actually using AI and not just talking about it. So to kick things off, where should I start, guys? I guess the main questions that we have to discuss today are decentralized communities replacing traditional agencies? What are they actually replacing? What does the future of communities and crypto look like? And how will AI or how can AI support in community building? If you're a listener and a builder, how can it support you on your community building? If you're here as well, just as a listener, it's also how is AI going to change the future of communities? And so maybe let's start with the first part being, are decentralized communities replacing traditional agencies? From here, let's just open up the floor and see where things end up.
Let's go. Let's do it. Amazing.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
want me to jump in or someone want to kick it off?
No, please feel free to kick us off. What do you think? How are decentralized community replacing traditional agencies? Is this something you've seen as a community builder, Toby? I know we've seen it as maybe not completely replacing agencies or marketing teams, but communities have come in as a huge, literally as the marketing team. Communities are almost the new marketing teams now. Would love to hear your perspective on that, Toby.
Yeah, 100%. I think one thing I can do really quick as well, just before I do jump into this, is give a short introduction just on my background and my level of expertise and where it stems from. I imagine people listening to this, there's going to be a lot of Web3, there's going to be a lot of maybe Web2, there's going to be just people generally interested from the crypto space. And my level of expertise spans from Web3 all the way to music industries, all the way to clothing brands, all the way to Discord, to school, to Circle, to those three community platforms in particular are the ones that I primarily build on. And yeah, that's basically what I've done for the last 5+ years is building these communities, prioritizing engagement. How do we gamify them? How do we make them experiences where people, they're terrified to hit that unsubscribe button if it's a paid community, or leave it, or not get involved, and give them that FOMO for not engaging. So with that, a brief introduction out of the way is, yeah, my take on the question was, just to be clear, is decentralized community. What do you mean by decentralized community? As in not one bubble of people running it and community being the moving factor that has influence? Or
Good question. Decentralized community, in my mind, was about like communities for decentralized projects like crypto and things like that. But that doesn't mean I want to limit it there. If you have another angle, please take it that way.
great. Yeah, I think we'll start with the crypto space. Is community is, I think if we look at the general psychology of all humans, is community is a necessity for humans. And we've only really been exposed to how in demand community and needed it is after the pandemic, after 2020. And that was
Online, for
because,
sure.
yeah, that was because people they were so disconnected, they were so alone, they didn't know their people, they were lost. People were losing their purpose and who they were in the world. And the power of community, which is why it's so brilliant for projects to assign a strong community to their project. We look at something like pudgy penguins, why do they thrive so much? And we realize that community is what we need. It's fundamental value. So what's interesting is I always thought that the NFT space, the crypto space, these were spaces that latched onto it first. And there's communities out there that are a lot more fake, they're a lot more degen, but there's also communities out there in this space that are a lot more authentic and real and valuable. And you feel like you spend time in these spaces and you walk away with something. I think, in my opinion, that's what makes a good community, is you enter a space and you either get value, you make lifelong connections, you make brothers, you make sisters, you meet people that, ultimately improve your quality of life. And I think the crypto space was one of the first spaces to get onto that. Now there's an awful lot of businesses, especially this year. I've seen such an influx in businesses, just general companies, whether that's in the clothing space, whether that's just an influencer who now wants to find a new way of monetizing his audience. They're moving closer and closer to this. And I think it's no brainer now. No, it's not new information to say that community is how businesses are moving forward. They're leading community first and building around community, and their product does the rest. So yeah, I think that's what I would say on that. I am itching to move over to the AI concept of things, but before I jump over to that, we'll stick on the concept of decentralized communities and everything. I'm interested to hear what you guys think with it all.
Yeah, that was. Can you hear me now? I
Got you.
Yeah, cool. I had to leave and come back in. That was great, Toby. I think pretty much spot on. What I would say is that I've noticed, and I think we've all noticed, that communities before were simply there, it's essentially just to consume information, right? That was it. They would consume information from the brand or the product or whatever the organization was. And that was essentially it, right? Whereas now, it's particularly in the Web3 space, there's so much more now. They have such a big influence on everything in every sort of direction in which the product or the project or the company, the token, whatever it may be, in which direction it goes. It could be something as simple as making content, making memes, providing value in terms of DAOs, polls, offering guidance and advice, and all these kind of things that is such a huge part of the movement now. And I think, when I think about it, outside of crypto, the first time I saw something so powerful and strong was, do you remember GameStop? Do you remember the Roaring Kitty phase from 5 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, much time has passed. Oh my gosh.
I know. And if you've not seen the movie, I can't remember the name. Is this called GameStop? Or is it called The Short Squeeze? I can't remember fully what it's called. Anyway, the movie. The movie's awesome. It's awesome. But that sort of embodied the power of a community. And that was outside of crypto, essentially maybe in the early stages of crypto, of what we know as of today. That sort of community, which was built, I believe, on Reddit and then moved over to YouTube, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It was YouTube, yeah. With obviously the Roaring Kitty figurehead, once again, should have done my research, can't remember his name, but he was the figurehead of this movement. And the sort of phrase bag work, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, you're working for your bags, was something which was never seen before. And the Reddit forums and the community forums in which they were operating was electric. And that's a part of the reason why this story became such a success, because literally nobody sold, because the community, like Toby just said, had become a family. They'd become brothers and sisters, and nobody was going to sell before the other person. And that's why we have that story of which we have today. So yeah, I think that's just an example of how powerful something like a community is in a decentralized way, because they have so much motion and power, which is what brands want and need. And I think you just have to, if you have a spare 20-25 minutes, watch a video with Murad at Token 2049 last year.
Believe in something?
Sorry?
The believe in something?
The believe in something. Exactly. So it gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. And he's not a tremendous speaker. Murad, if you're listening, which you probably will one day, that video, you weren't the best speaker, but his words were so powerful. And people have this perception that using meme coins specifically, they have no intrinsic value. And that's essentially true. But the most powerful value of any product is the community behind it, especially in the decentralized era. So that value in terms of the community actually out-trumps everything else. If you look at it from every metric possible, through success of the token, through engagement online, every footprint which you look at, it's unmatched with a very solid community behind it.
Well said.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the film with the? I need to Google it now. What's it called?
I'm sure if you type in Mirage, believe something, it'll come up. Or do you mean
No, the GameStop movie, Dumb Money.
Yeah.
It's called Dumb Money? No, it's not called Dumb Money.
No, it's The Big Squeeze. The Big Squeeze. I'm pretty sure it's called The Big Squeeze. 2021.
The Big Squeeze. Honestly, guys, watch it. Like, no, it's not called The Big Squeeze.
It's
Dumb money. Find it, drop it in
It's
the
dumb
comments.
money.
Dumb money.
It's dumb money.
Dumb Money.
Correct.
I was right. Dumb Money. 2023 it came out. Yeah, I watched it on a plane a couple of years ago. Obviously, understood the story of GameStop, but if you really want to look at powerful movements in terms of communities, you need to watch it because it will blow your mind.
But drop the link in the comments, so anyone listening here wants a reference can go in. Amazing. So one thing we touched on the power of communities and believing something and working for your bags, but I want to expand on working on your bags a little bit because something I've noticed is, for example, Giga. If you guys know the Giga Chad meme, well, the Giga Chad community is strong, really strong, and everyone knows the Giga Chad meme, so it's a little bit of a cheat code. But something I've noticed in communities like that, they don't have, I don't know if they do have an agency or a marketing team working with them exactly, but do they need one? It feels like when you really get it right, really build that community right, the marketing almost takes care of itself. People start working for their bags, they start making the memes, they start sharing it, it becomes this network effect. Any other case studies, projects you guys have seen, any insights into how that happens?
It's funny you say about Giga. To be honest, when they had that sort of initial insane rise, it's not something which. But it's interesting. They're a community takeover, right? As far as I believe. Yeah, so they're a CTO. So if you actually look at all of the successful memes, and I literally mean 99% of them, they're all community takeovers. Yeah, I think that just goes to show how powerful the community is behind the upwards trajectory of this project. And Pepe is a CTO. It's the story of Pepe was a CTO. Doge was a CTO. So Doge was launched by a guy called Billy, who essentially rugged, right? He rugged, and then the community took it over. Brett was the same. All of these Pudgy Penguins, yeah. Hundreds of millions, billion-dollar companies, projects now. Doge now has a whole, it's got the House of Doge Foundation, which invests in a bunch of stuff. I saw they recently bought over a soccer club in Italy in one of the lower divisions.
That's insane.
It's crazy, man. It's absolutely insane. So they now have full-on investment arms. And once again, people will say, what's the value of this? The value is clear. The values of this, they're making these huge moves in terms of taking over the operations of actual businesses. But yeah, how do you get from zero to there, to that point of being a super successful project? And it's very challenging now because 4 or 5 years ago, the amount of projects being launched was far less than what is being launched now. So people are tired, I guess, in a way as well. But you still see the odd occasion.
Launch fatigue.
Yeah, launch fatigue, exactly. Fartcoin of this last cycle, which is it didn't hit the heights, obviously, of the big guys from last cycle, but it might do. How do they get to that point of being a huge success? And it all stems from people bag working. So what does that mean? Bag working is you buy the token yourself, You then, this is how it normally happens. You buy the token yourself. You then shill. So shill means essentially just market it in your own personal way into your very close groups, whether it be a private group, an alpha group, a lounge, wherever you have your own community or your own acquaintances, friends, whatever it may be. They then, if they like it, they'll buy. That then spreads through all of their networks, etc., etc. But the most important part is that the early investors, they need to really hold floors. That's obviously very important because most of the marketing is done on chart. So if there's red candles, there's less people who are going to buy. But the reality is that people are going to follow on in green candles and tops. That's how it works. But bag working in that way, people don't pay for marketing. So there's normally one person or a couple of people that will be managing the social media, making content, using AI, manning the community, moderating it. All these kind of small components make a huge, they build the base of the community really, which then takes it to the heights, hopefully, of where they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the shilling part. But I guess that's what shilling is at the end of the day. It's just trying to, how do you turn your community into shillers? And shillers feels like a bit of a dirty word, but it's true. Like you want people to do the marketing for you in their own way. Now, when you get your community, like you get your community skilling, working for their bags, bad working, there's so many terms for it. But at the end of the day, what are they actually replacing? Do you think the future of community in crypto is a future without marketing agencies?
Possibly. Yeah, I think it probably is. Realistically, I think it is. I think if we're all being realistic, that a lot of agencies are going down the more autonomous route involving AI from an agentic layer, having AI essentially running their marketing, running their socials. You see it now with AI community moderators. And Toby, you can touch on a little bit this as well in terms of what are your experiences are with AI moderators. I've seen a bunch on Telegram, a little bit less so on Discord. My initial sort of thoughts were very mixed. I don't know. I think that human level is very important. So I think that from a marketing perspective and a social media perspective, I think that AI can definitely add value, but from a community area standpoint, I think that you need that human touch and human element, in my opinion. But what do you think, Toby?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point. I think the best communities I've worked with and seen in the market across all industries are the ones that dominate in authenticity. So you join them and immediately this is ran by real people. And I'll give you an example. The Pudgy Penguins Discord, if you go into their general chat, I'd be very impressed if you could catch on to any of the members that look like they're an AI or they're a potential shiller who's just purely, or not, I'm using shiller in the negative context, as in they're being paid to do it rather than they just have a love for brand, because most people in that community, they're on the latter. They have the love for the project, they have the love for the product, and that is authenticity. They're staying true to how they feel and they're demonstrating that, and the best communities are built on that, which begs the question of where does AI stand? And I think I do want to touch on what you were saying with marketing agencies too, and where do they stand with the combination of AI and communities? And I think the best marketing agencies will learn how to do a combination of the pair. They'll learn how to integrate AI because you need AI to stay afloat. If we look at AI in the way that it's changing the industry, if we look at how it's providing more value, is not really doing anything crazy that we haven't seen before. And what I mean by that is that history repeats. The Industrial Revolution, 1700s to the 1800s, if you didn't keep up with the machinery, you were left behind. When electricity was invented, if you didn't keep up with that as an electrician or anything, it replaced steam. So if you were stuck in the steam ages, when electricity came around, you fell behind. The calculator, when the calculator came around and you were still doing, you were jotting down your notes with a pencil, trying to figure out what 159 times 73 divided by X is. Well, if you didn't use a calculator, you were replaced instantly. Even like exploration, the steam engine, agricultural revolution, all of these things. Now, what I'm saying is that AI and community are just another tool for marketing agencies to pivot. And that's all humans do. It's all we've done since the beginning of time is we adapt and we pivot to provide more value. And that's what the best ones will do. I, in a biased way, believe community more than AI. AI is incredible and absolutely needed, but community is this is why I started the space by speaking about it. It's a fundamental human need, right? Community and humans and connection isn't a choice. Every human needs it. And the best businesses and projects know that. And you just use AI to harness it. If you use AI to try and replicate it and create it, you create an inauthentic environment. And I think that's where damage is done. And the best communities are creating these exciting events. So I think AI, for example, I'll give some actionable advice on this as well, is AI in the sense of a moderator is incredible. There's already a lot of plugins and bots and code out there that allow you, especially on Telegram and Discord, to make it automatic so that if someone puts a link in, it's gone. They get a warning, they receive a message about why they shouldn't send that. They get a strike so that the mods can keep an eye on them. The community managers can keep an eye on them. That's all automatic. If someone sends words that don't want to be sent in there and whatever, moderation purposes, that's great. But if you had an AI that's running a call where, it's an event where they get 50 people on the stage, or imagine if us right now on this stage were all AI and we're not real people talking. I don't know if AI will get to that level, maybe, but would it feel authentic? It would have to be a bloody good AI. And even then, would people tune in if they're even suspicious about it being something AI? And humans can always put authenticity first. Something that I won't speak on too much because it's a little bit off topic is future-proofing community against AI. And I'm sure we've all heard of dead internet theory. There's this theory that we're maybe already living in the dead internet theory, where all of the internet is just filled with AI and robots already. And I brought this up to someone the other day and was like, what happens when that starts to infect communities, Discords, Telegrams, right? They'll lose their value. So how do you protect against that? For reference, the dead internet theory is mostly for social media, so like Instagram comments, that's all AI and stuff like that. But what happens when that starts to infiltrate communities? In person is such an underrated aspect that AI can never compete with. That's a future proof of AI and community. There's already a lot of people moving towards that. And future-proofing community even more is how do we bring these projects, and all the biggest projects have been doing this for years, but they get people in person. They'll host events where it feels they have more of a human touch against it. And yeah, that's basically, tangent aside, where I stand with that. I think it's just a tool for everyone to harness to move forward.
I think that there is a lot that was touched on there. I think what I'll explore here closer is the social dynamics. You slightly touched on the social dynamics, but we glossed over the exponential factor that social dynamics have. What do I mean by that? In a community, it's not just your relationship. It's not the brand's relationship with everybody. What matters a lot to you is the social dynamics. It's the relationship. For example, let's take me, Cam, and Toby. It's not. This podcast isn't about my relationship, for example, with the people listening and all of you. It's about my relationship with Toby and my relationship with Cam's relationship with me, Toby's relationship with me, Cam's relationship with Toby. Do you see how the exponential factor of all of that starts to increase like the value of relationship? It's not just like a top-down thing here, but the communities, I think a good community is a ground-up effect. That happens when you encourage relationships between people and not just talking at them, but having them talk with them and having them talk with each other, build relationships with each other. And how important it is for a community to harness that, as well as notice the effect it has on the market as a whole. Like that those relationships become something that people want to be a part of. I think that's also like why at the beginning NFTs did so well during COVID, and this was like touched on as well, is when you bought a CryptoPunk, it wasn't just about being an owner of a CryptoPunk. All of a sudden the doors were open and other people with CryptoPunks became like your family almost. It was like you were part of a family. And I think that was really important. That was like a defining moment for communities in crypto and where it was going to go. So Yeah, I just wanted to add that as a comment. And then another thing you spoke on, Toby, was you don't think AI will replace community moderators or replace that connection. And I agree. But I think I think AI will get to a point where it will be able to foster relationships between people, not just, it probably won't be able to develop the relationship between the brands so well, but I think it'll get to a point where it'll start to create multiple profiles on every user and start to introduce certain people like, oh, this person has a certain sense of humor, and so does this other person. I think those two will belong well together. And
I will actually quickly interrupt on that topic. I went to
Please
an
go.
event. I went to an event in September. It's called Ideas Fest, based in the UK. And before you go to the event, once you've paid for your ticket, you're basically redirected to this person called Bordy. You can search it up on Google, bordy.ai. And it's a WhatsApp number you get given, and you're encouraged to get on a call with this Bordy person. You answer the phone, you speak to it, and you are speaking to an Australian accented man, essentially, and they're speaking to you like a normal human, literally asking you questions about who you are, what business do you run, what type of person are you looking to connect with at this event. It's even doing things like that. It's like it's really weird. And then ultimately, it eventually finds all the people in its database that it's spoken to, takes all of the data and the information that you've asked, and essentially connects you with all the people. And at first I did it. I got off the call and I was like, wow, that was really weird. That was like I was speaking to a real person. And it started messaging
If they
me.
didn't tell you it wasn't a real person, would you have known the difference?
I think I would have been suspicious, but it was very close. If it's fixed up on a few pauses, because the thing is, you'd say something and then it'd sit and think for 4 or 5 seconds. I'd be like, hello, you still there? If it fixed that, I think I would believe it was real. And it was basically, it would connect me to people. It would, even to this day, like it will sometimes drop me a message about someone that it's recommended me. It goes even further than outside the event. It was good for the event because building up to the event, it will tell you who's going and get you in rooms. So when you go there, you already know who these people are because you connected with them on X, on LinkedIn, etc. But essentially what you were describing, Alejandro, it bloody already exists. Incredible. Which is pretty scary to think, but yeah.
Was that the first time you'd heard of Bordy?
That was the first time I had properly used it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a publicly available tool?
Yeah, it's on LinkedIn and WhatsApp. It made the last time I checked, which, granted, could be last year. Essentially, it calls itself a super connector. So across LinkedIn and WhatsApp, really interesting story, like how it was all created and all that kind of stuff. And you should definitely read about Bordy.
And we had at the event, we had the founder do a speech on it. Yeah, he did a talk on it. It was him. It was another big influencer in the space and the crowd. And he was doing like a podcast style stage talk, him, the influencer and everyone in the crowd. And while he was talking, he had his phone out and it was Bordy on the phone. So they would have a conversation. Then he put the mic to Bordy and Bordy would say what it was thinking. And it weren't just like your GPT generic stuff. It would say things. And then it'd say something like, Toby's in the crowd and he does communicate. It would bring up someone in the crowd and it was super weird.
Holy cow.
But yeah, it was interesting.
They went through a fundraising stage after the product was already created. Essentially just take it to the next level and I assume to monetize a little bit themselves amongst various different development costs and all that kind of stuff. They raised so Bordy alone on LinkedIn raised $8 million without any human interaction, although the humans did take care of paperwork. But 8 million was raised purely through Bordy, and the algorithms in which they were using, and the hype that was created around Bordy at that time was insane. Really interesting story, which you should check out.
Crypto war, do you know? Have you seen this in crypto projects?
Have I seen Bordy being implemented in crypto?
Yeah.
Not directly. Obviously, LinkedIn does have a Web3 presence on a more sort of probably C-level basis. The trenches aren't on LinkedIn.
No.
But yeah, to a certain degree, it is. But to be honest, I haven't fully used it. I have used it, but I haven't checked it out in a while. But it's very, very cool. And like Toby said, it is pretty insane as to how realistic it can be.
Could probably be a really great fundraising tool as well, the way you guys put it. That's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Okay. A lot of interesting stuff was shared there. Thanks for bringing that up, Toby. I think that's a game changer. Something I think more projects should explore. If it's not publicly available, I think that is the future, though, of community building, enhancing human connection using AI as a tool. And whether if this is positive or negative, I guess is aside, but human connection with AI is increasing as new generations are born with ChatGPT on their phones and them not knowing anything different. GPT is probably not GPT, sorry, but artificial intelligence is probably gonna be poised to become one of a human's main connection at some point. Maybe not all humans, but a lot of humans. Their main points of connection will be AI, and that's gonna be as an interesting future. Not only that, you were talking about dead internet theory, Toby, and there's an interesting thought topic, I guess, thought process that could go from here, but AI and agentic workflows are poised to take over human activity on the blockchain and transactions. On the blockchain, AI will be moving more money than humans. I don't know how soon, how fast, but AI is moving a lot of money on the blockchain. And maybe this isn't a topic we want to go into, maybe it is, but marketing or communities, the future of communities, like and marketing, I think there will be a fork, and there will be, are you marketing or building communities for AIs or for humans? And that'll define parameters and workflows in the future. What does marketing and community building for AI look like? I don't know. Bitfencer could be an example. They launch agents on chain and compete, but it's not collaborative, it's competitive, and it's not community building. Capitalism on steroids and with an AI boost. But yeah,
There was
that's
actually
side note.
something really interesting which I saw recently. It was a kind of a mini meta which I saw on chain. The initial project, what they essentially did was they put the 4 main different LLMs up against each other.
Arena. We talked about that on our last phase.
Oh, did you? I wasn't here. Yeah. I mean that's super interesting. So essentially, an example that I saw, and there was many different sort of spin-offs to it, but they trained all these different LLMs to be pro traders, gave them, in this case it was 1 BNB each, which was equivalent to about $1,000 more or less.
It was
And
$10,000 for Alpha Arena.
for Alpha Arena, it was 10K. Okay, these ones were a little bit less. That's what I mean. There's spin-offs.
Okay,
So yeah, 1K, 10K for Alpha Arena, whatever. And yeah, just let them trade off it to each other and see who the winner was. On what I saw, ChatGPT was that their agent was very good, and the return, the ROI was really strong. But what did you see of Alpha Arena? I didn't catch up with them so much.
So Alpha Arena, I think, was the one that made it popular. I don't know if they were first or what, but Alpha Arena, I think it was 8 LLMs or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was 5.
5, yeah. There's a few
5, yeah.
fundamental flaws. But first, I'll highlight the fact that I think Quen won with only losing $1,000. And yeah, so one of the fundamental flaws of this is they all lost money, first of all. Second of all, they didn't have access to any information. All they had access to was TA, but no sentiment, no nothing, no news in the market. This was a test, and I don't know about the other spin-offs and stuff, but the restrictions make this more of a test about how it's a behavioral test more than it is an efficiency test, if that makes sense. So I did some reading on this, and the idea, like, what these flaws point out is you can tell how the LLM behaves due to the parameters and the fine-tuning that every company has given them. So, for example, ChatGPT, I think it was, yeah, like, as soon as it would lose money, it would switch its position and try to do something else frantically. And then when that didn't succeed, it did the next thing frantically, Another one, I forget which one, but it just went all in Bitcoin, extra high leverage. And they had crazy returns for a while. some of them actually hedged their positions with different positions, shorts and all that. Others didn't. And it also, the parameters, how do they trade them up? How were they trained on technical analysis? What was the prop they were given? A lot of these metrics were behind closed doors. I couldn't find it, but this brings up such a big conversation. And that's maybe a bit of a rant, but really excited about it. It's just AI and how it's going to manage money. In a world where AI becomes publicly accessible, agents become, how to put it, retail, artificial intelligence and retail investing become publicly accessible for anyone with a few dollars to partake in. Like, what does that future look like? And at the end of the day, when AI starts managing so much money, how do you market to AIs to capture cash flow from AI and not just retail or institutions, but AI itself? How do you build community around AI? AI is going to be a market leader soon. AI is going to be a lead investor really soon, not just one single AI or Aladdin from BlackRock or something, because that's an AI as well, but a bunch of retail investors and people like that are going to invest in or create their own AI investment bonds. How do you capture that cash flow, at least in the sense of AI, and at least in the sense of crypto and capturing mind share, market share? I don't know if this is all off topic. If you guys want to go into it, happy to, but definitely moving away from the future of communities and AI's role in it.
Yeah, I love a fun little gander down a distraction lane. Yeah.
It's so funny. Should I bring it back with our final question?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, we covered a little bit of what does the future of communities in crypto look like. We touched on a little bit of how AI is adding to communities and how we also believe nothing will replace a human connection, but maybe enhance it. So now, Toby, I think this is where you can add loads of value. It's how can AI support on your community building as a project? How have you seen AI actually contributing? How do you implement it now into your projects or communities? We'd love to hear more about that.
100%. Is there, like you said, there's a million different ways I could take that. Is there a specific one you want me to go? For example, I could talk about the structuring of a community. I could talk about the language, the announcement structure of it. I could talk about the moderation, the engagement with AI. I could talk about.
Yeah, I love how many different angles there are to this. Now, in my opinion, I think one of the better ways to take this would be actionable, like insights. What do you think would apply to the largest denomination of people? But what do you guys think? Zane, Cam, is there a different angle you think would be more productive?
Bro, I could just listen to Toby speak all day long, man.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Oh, dude, you just go, man.
Yeah, bro.
Go with the flow. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think the most actionable one that anyone can take away, that if anyone has any involvement with building a community, is building a GPT, an LLM, building some sort of knowledge base for your community, for your platform. I do this with any client anyway. I've actually been tiny side tangent. I recommend for everyone to build a knowledge base of all your thoughts and knowledge on something like Obsidian, on something like, you can even do it on something like Notion, and just throw all of your notes in there and just speak to it using its AI feature. Notion actually really has it, I think, on its paid plan, where you put all your notes on Notion, you can speak to the GPT on it, and it will be able to like regurgitate notes you've already got in there, which is really cool. But yeah, I mean, if we look at Alex Hormozy, that's what he did with his 100 million launch. As one of the big upsells was the big AI, which was trained on all of his resources, and it was a big selling point for people. That being said, Alex Hormozy, what's he doing? He's an equity holder in School. Sam Evans, founder of School. Iman Gadzi, co-owner of WAP, another community platform. Simon Squibb, founder of HelpBank. So many of these big creators now are building and funding their own community platforms. So yeah, anyway, back to the original point. Building GPTs are huge because A, they help you make quicker decisions. You can be way more efficient if you've got a GPT that knows your community better than you. B, you've got a thought thinker. So rather than it just saving you time, it's also going to be there to give you ideas. And the more it knows your business, the more memory it builds up, the more it can say and recognize patterns and say, this is something good that we can do. An example of this is a clothing brand I've worked with for the last 2.5 years. one I've got with that clothing brand is every 10 days before a drop. So let's say we've got a drop this weekend, for example, Friday to Sunday. 10 days before that, or in fact, it's actually more like 15 days these days because we do a sneak peek build up for drops too. But we will do an event every single day leading up to that drop. It sounds pretty intense, and they can be, but I'm talking like, imagine you have one day which is like a challenge, another day is like a bingo night where everyone jumps on a call, another's an AMA, and you go on like that. Now, building these structures can take a while to build, but because I've got a GPT that's trained on maybe 60, 70, 80 different events I've already ran in the past, and I have that data for, it's incredible. A resource some of you guys might be aware of listening is something called AI 2027. It was a document published by a lot of intelligent minds behind AI, and they were involved with OpenAI and things like that. And on there, one of the best ways to future-proof yourself moving forward is to collect as much data as possible in your industry on what you're doing. So in the community space, it would be what's getting people to engage, how many daily messages are happening on certain topics. Using AI to collect that data is huge. So GPTs, building the GPTs, making sure they're extremely versed in what you're building and having that as almost your right-hand partner, someone who's going to be there to take thoughts. Second thing is the actual community structure and what that looks like. I'm going to keep going back and forth with this GPT and using this for the future of my examples from this point on, because it's going to be there for your crux now. It's your foundation for the community. And the next thing you want to do is understand copy. This is such an underestimated asset, in my opinion, in the community space, is people don't understand how important copywriting is in the community space, because this was something that I only accidentally realized the value in because I used to study and learn copywriting and email marketing before I got into the community management space. And what is copywriting? Copywriting is the ability to use words to get people to an action or buy something. So if you send out an announcement and you're someone who's not very versed in copywriting, the announcement might be very vague. Let's say there's an Ask Me Anything coming up and you want to get people to join, and you just sent out a notification and said, hey guys, we're hosting this, join. Whereas you bring in a copywriter who knows how to implement and make the writing sound new, easy, safe, predictable, fresh, right? It's exciting. You have a good community manager or someone of that sort who knows how to write exciting copy to hype up events. That's going to get more people involved. It's going to get more people to tick. This is something I've learned working with communities who have 10, 20, 30, 50,000 members, is it gets to a point where there's so many members in there, getting new members in no longer becomes that important. It's harnessing the amount of members that are already in there and leveraging your current audience. And you can do that in so many different ways, even little things. And this is a gem that many people don't realize, is that in the same way that people prioritize and take so much care in the subject lines of their emails, you should be doing the exact same thing when you send out a notification to your Discord community or your Telegram community, because the first notification they see on their phone is the subject line essentially of your message. So if you make an announcement on Discord to say, hey everyone, we're hosting an AMA, what they would see is, hey everyone, we're hosting ... So you should emphasize on optimizing that first bit, because you're going to get more people to open the notification and click. Something that just I never hear people speak about, and that can be applied on any community platform. Why I bring that up again, it's the GPT. The more of these announcements you make, spend a bunch of time optimizing your tone of voice for your community. Feed all that into a GPT. Just make a Google document, paste it all onto there, feed it into the memory of GPT or LLM. And therefore, when you go to write these messages in the future, it's going to be far more versed and understanding on the community. I've been over building the AI, and I've been over the copywriting and the messaging. Is there anything else you guys want me to jump into?
Wow, dude, that was great. Really good. On my end, I think you covered a lot. What do you think, Smokey?
Yeah, no, I'm just digesting all that because there's so much. Now,
Is there
this
something that
all-
you guys would find value in? Like you guys specifically, personally, you would find value in with community building?
I think one thing that people might be curious about, and you touched on this a little bit, you shared one insight that were absolutely insane, but it was to future-proof yourself. You should start to build a glossary or database of like everything, basically. And I think that's just so brilliant and so smart. Yeah.
I can dive into a bit more of an actionable on how the best way to actually do that. So everyone has their own industries listening to this. what you should do is you grab the AI 2027 document, and you literally just type in AI 2027. Yeah, type in AI 2027 on Google, copy the entire document, and then paste it into ChatGPT. But before you paste it, ask it, explain what the document is, and ask it ways, how would I future-proof, aka protect myself in my industry, in my niche, in order to work alongside AI, and if anything, it help benefit me and my business. And that'll basically tell you, it will tell you all the data points you need to be collecting, the things you need to be concerned about, how you should pivot. And there was someone else that actually showed me that, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but that is what gave me a lot of thoughts on what I need to do in the community space to be better equipped.
All right, I think one thing that would help us, and also a lot of people listening, is we touched on a lot of theory, idea, paths forward, and some basic steps, and you just covered in some detail like how to do the LLM thing, and that's incredible. On that note, there is something called Notebook LLM by Google, where you type in the doc and you can talk to the doc. So that might be a cool tool for you to check out too. But I think one thing that people might like to hear is the actual tool you're using, how you're using them. You might touch on that a little briefly, but is there any like bots that are already integrating AI? Are you working on anything cool, or do you have any communities where you've seen a specific thing work really well? Anything in crypto that you've seen stand out for community building specifically, or even in other industries that could be carried over here? I would love to hear about that.
Sure. I'm trying, there's an awful amount of Discord bots I could speak forever about, but I'll try and keep this short. So for general tools in general, my main one is Notion. I think most of us are pretty Notion savvy in here. And the big selling point from originally, I was Notion and Obsidian. And I would plug in most of Obsidian's basically just a more geeky version of Obsidian. It's originally made for writers, and then all the business savvy people came along and stole it for their own. But Obsidian, you can get all sorts of plugins to do more fancy things. If you're someone who just has a fuck ton of notes and you just want to be able to get a summary of it through AI, Notion does the job. If you want to do more advanced things, I really recommend Obsidian. And you own all the notes on Obsidian. Something like Notion's on a database, so if they wanted to say one day you have to pay for it, or they just shut it down, you'd lose your notes. And Obsidian, it's all stored on your computer, on your own files, on your phone. Yeah. So Notion's the big one. Notion's the big one that I use tool-wise. Discord, obviously, Slack, Loom, all those good stuff. But jumping into the actual source of Discord and what I highly recommend, I'll start with non-AI specific. Or do you want me to just generally go all in on AI tools?
I think generally AI, but I'm still open to listening to anything else. And I'm sure a lot of these tools are going to have AI integration eventually.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so there's a million tools out there already that are just ChatGPT extensions. So Meet 6, everyone is aware of Meet 6.
Yeah.
If anyone knows a thing or two about Discord as well, they'll also know it's one of the worst bots in the world. Primarily, the only reason it thrives so much is because it was one of the first utility bots in the space, and they took advantage of that. And because of its big name, especially in the crypto space, they could put a big paywall in front of it, even though there's plenty of other utility bots that do the same thing. But one thing that they do is they have the GPT integration, so you can speak to it as if it's an AI, and you can be on Discord speaking to ChatGPT. There's a lot of bots that also do that. GPT and AI, as far as Discord's concerned, is still pretty weak. So I'm crossing the line between automation and GPT. There's an awful amount of automation tools. GPT and AI being used in these communities at the minute is still relatively weak in terms of Discord bots. Some of the best ways that I've seen it utilized, however, is in onboarding structures in combination with things like N8N, in combination with things like Go High Level, with ClickUp and CRM. So for example, one that I had built recently with another community is it was completely gate kept, and to get involved, you had to be qualified and you had to be approved. So rather than one person, so let's say someone, they applies on the website through something like Typeform, that Typeform application goes through to something like ClickUp into our CRM, and then you'd have the community manager go into the CRM and just read through all the applications and approve them. But what if instead, through an automation, you had an AI that could scan through the applications, spot if someone's a good fit or not based on the vibe and what they're saying, automatically approve them, give them the Discord role that unlocks the rest of the access into the Discord, onboard them, then send them a DM related to what they've said, this is one of my favorite features with this system, is when they join, they don't just receive a boring automated message, welcome name, you're in the community. They actually give a message like, welcome Greg, you joined because you were interested in achieving financial freedom. This is the channel we recommend you to go to for that. Those are the best ways I've found to integrate AI into community building. The only reason I'm not spending too much time to emphasize on that is because it's not a Discord bot. This is more like a more complicated setup to do that through things like NAN. Discord bot wise though, I think my theory why they're currently not huge on Discord at the minute is just because they're expensive for the people running them and they require tokens. And so it's not really worth it for people to plug them in. There used to be a very big one that actually got banned a couple months ago, and it was called Shapes. It was called Shapes.inc. It was really famous. They spiked in their revenue. It went crazy one month. And they got loads of traction, and then it all came tumbling back down in the same way that they spiked up. They fell straight back down. And I'll jump into why that is. But basically what the bot would do is you could go, I used it a couple of times at community events with other groups, and it was super fun. You could go on their dashboard and you could create your own avatar that would talk in your community. So for example, if we had a mascot, right? We had the mascot for this group or something like that. We had the XP mascot, and we had a Discord, and in there, it would talk in the way that you trained it. So on their dashboard, you could train it to have certain personality traits. You could write an essay on how it communicates with people and how it acts. You could write about what does it reference? Does it write in short sentences and long sentences? And you add the token and set it up into your Discord. And then every time a member sends a message, it would reply to those messages in the character's tone. So if you wanted to, let's say Tony Stark, right? You wanted to get an AI in there that speaks like Tony Stark, you could do that. And it would speak like Tony Stark if you trained it and gave it the appropriate resources and go back and forth with members. Where it went wrong for them, you guys can research in your own time since it's irrelevant to this. But that was a huge thing in Discord. That's probably the most we've ever seen AI really get pushed in Discord, and it's just because people are having so much fun with it and all of that. There's still a couple more that exist on Discord. There's quite a few like ones where you can create your own characters, but the ones that are the most valuable, in my opinion, are the ones where they automate things and they can do things to make a customer journeys onboarding even better. Those are the most valuable ones in gamification and stuff like that.
Thank you so much, Toby. Does anyone have any other closing questions? I think we've come up on the hour. So if there's anyone in the community that also wants to ask, now's the time. Toby for a little while here, and he's obviously a huge wealth of information. So
Toby's
come up.
So I was actually just reading the AI 2027 document that you sent through. I hadn't actually seen this before, and I found it very interesting. I was actually checking out the valuation in the sector, what estimated valuation in the sector from now, which is looking at about 90 billion, more or less, give or take. Their projections were in 2 years to see a $9 trillion valuation in 2 years, which is obviously incredible growth numbers that you don't often see in these kind of sectors after it's just had exponential growth. Yeah, 10x on valuation is very, very cool.
Yeah, it's very sick. It's very sick. It's also slightly scary too, but
like it's terrifying. It is really terrifying. Yeah, I actually read something very recently about the threat to Bitcoin through quantum computing and how they project that soon through this high-tech, the high-tech upgrades, I guess you can call them, which are coming, that essentially all Bitcoin seed phrases and crypto seed phrases could be hacked into very soon. Off topic completely, but it was very interesting.
Awesome. I gotta read into this. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, but no, it was amazing, Toby. We got through a lot and it was great. Toby, for our listeners, where can they find you, man? Like, how can they source your wisdom and all the amazing, cool, super shit stuff, super shit that you do?
Dude, I need to be better at centralizing myself on one platform, but at the minute it's LinkedIn. I can drop a link. It's just Toby Smith, but I can link my LinkedIn in the comments of this. I am working ASAP on getting my website up to speed. I got a website made a while ago, and I just never published it. I just never finalized it. So I need to hit publish and execute on that. But yeah, let me drop my LinkedIn.
Legendary. Also, if you need any help, we've got Stanko here. Reach out anytime. We're happy to help.
I was just gonna say, I was like, bro, did you say website?
That's funny.
I could literally
Well,
see your ears prick up behind your avatar.
The buzzword.
Don't say website.
Did someone say AI? That's a buzzword. That's fine.
That's funny. Amazing. Let's see. We covered
Everything under the
pretty
sun.
much everything. Yeah. So our goal was to our goal was to make sure people understand how communities are going to become the new agencies. We covered that. I think some key takeaways were that the spilling and the building that comes from a community is just unparalleled. We've learned practical frameworks from Toby here about how to leverage AI for your community and empower the collective. And finally, we learned from Toby as an engineer of community and like how intelligence is gonna build into that, create a new future for communities. Any other key takeaways you want the audience to get from this or think back on and
Yeah, I think
see you as a source of truth for?
I think the closing thought side end on is community is incredible in the business world, and it's only going to get better from here, but also never underestimate the power of it in your personal life as well. Everything that I said at the start of this call is true if you look at the history of humans and how far we've come. When it comes to community and how important it is finding your people, whether that's your people that you can speak to, who understand your pain points and your frustrations, whether that's an online group for something niche, a video game that you're trying to speak to your friends about and then have no idea what you're on about, but you'll find your group of people. They just scratch the itch. They're people. We're in a world where community is so advanced, where for the first time in thousands of years, we've been able to speak to someone on the other side of the world because they have the same niche interest as us. And that is something that it's great in business, but even better if you apply it to your personal life too.
I love that. Thank you so much, Toby.
Sweet.
And thank you so much
Appreciate you guys
for
having me on.
listening.
Thank you so much, Toby.
Yeah, of course.
Amazing.
And,
Thanks, guys.
Nice. All right. So
yeah, if you ever want to schedule another one, holler. We're always happy to have you on.
yeah, sounds good. I'm definitely up for it. Just drop me a message. Nice. I'll leave you guys here then. I'll jump off.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. We'll chat soon.
Nice.
All right, guys.
Bye, guys.
Peace. Bye.
Cheers, guys.
I just thought